Before anything else, if you're here right now, maybe late, maybe somewhere quiet, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. Wherever you're listening, whatever time you're in, I want you to really settle into this. Now, it's past midnight. The rain taps lightly against the side window, a gentle drumming that never quite stops, like it's hesitant to let you forget it's there. You're in a small house, somewhere on the edge of a town that's long since fallen asleep. The dim glow of a hallway light flickers above your head, casting brief shadows that stretch like slow-moving fingers along the walls. The sound of rain presses against the glass, a soft barrier between you and the dark outside. You press your palm against the cool window pane, feeling the damp chill soak through your sleeves. The air smells faintly of wet earth and old wood, a rhythm of rain and quiet that's easy to let yourself sink into until the silence shifts again. There's a creak from the floor below, subtle but too deliberate to ignore. Maybe it's just the house settling, or maybe not. You breathe out slowly, trying to steady your heart, hearing the soft hiss of water running in the gutters. The hallway light flickers again, and in that brief second when the room dims, you think you hear it. Just beyond the hallway's end, a whisper, too low to make out words but close enough that it pulls your attention away. You glance toward the shadowed corridor, the one that leads to the back door, where the rain falls heavier, washing the porch floor slick and gleaming. You take a step, the soles of your shoes squeaking softly against the polished wood. The back door, secured with 2 locks and a sturdy latch, stands just past a narrow window, rain blurring the glass so you can't quite see beyond it. The whistle of the wind outside mixes with the tapping rain, a steady counterpoint to your quiet footsteps. You move toward the door, pausing to check the peephole, pressing your eye against the cold metal. Outside, the world is a muted, silver smear of falling water and vague shapes, faint reflections of trees, shadows shifting between droplets. The porch light remains off, swallowed by the storm's dark. Then, a new noise, the softest knock, like knuckles tapping wood, from somewhere near the side window. Your breath catches. The sound is gentle, irregular, almost hesitant, not enough to be frightening, but enough to make your skin tighten. You don't see anyone through the rain-speckled glass, just the dull shimmer of wet leaves outside. You slowly return from the peephole to the hallway, your fingers brushing the edge of the light switch. In your pocket, your phone buzzes softly, a vibration that feels louder than it should in the quiet. A text, though no one's name lights up the screen. You resist the urge to check immediately. Instead, you listen. The whispers don't come again, but the rain has picked up, tapping now against the skylight, like a steady pulse, wrapping the house in its unbroken rhythm. A flash of lightning briefly illuminates the hallway, throwing the flickering bulb's shadow further down the corridor. It's so brief you almost doubt it happened, but the longer silence afterward feels heavier somehow. You consider calling a neighbor, thinking about that faint, almost insignificant sound at the side window, and decide against it. Better to stay quiet, observe, wait. The rain keeps falling, immersing the night in its steady presence. You settle back near the window, where cold moisture clings to the glass, tracing streaks down in slow, endless paths. Outside, under that veil of rain and shadow, you wonder how much of what you hear is shaped by the dark, by your mind filling space with something, anything, to break the stillness. Maybe the whispers were just the wind. Maybe the knock was a branch, or a restless animal brushing the siding. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something out there, watching the rain, waiting, wondering if you're watching back. Before we settle into tonight's story, go ahead and tap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm curious, where are you listening from right now? What time is it where you are? Take a breath, make yourself comfortable. It's past midnight. The rain shifts from a steady drum to a light, steady drizzle outside, sliding down the bathroom window, the one just off the hallway where you've been sitting. The air smells faintly of damp tile and something like clean linen, but there's also the unmistakable weight of quiet, the kind that wraps around a house deep at night. You lean back against the door frame, your fingers brushing the cool wood, your ears straining to catch what the rain doesn't wash away. The flickering hallway light overhead pulses slowly, its uneven glow throwing brief, soft shadows that twist at the edges of your vision. You notice how the floor underfoot is still damp from where you tracked in water earlier, a slick polish made slippery by the weather. Outside, the rain taps persistently on the roof, a steady, gentle percussion that forms the night's soundtrack. Then, something breaks the rhythm. Footsteps. Barely more than muffled taps, but deliberate. Quiet. Just outside the bathroom door where you stand. You freeze, pulse quickening, eyes fixed on the dim hallway. The steps are uneven, almost hesitant, pacing slowly and passing by without sound beyond those muted impacts. No scraping or scuffing, just the soft thud of soles brushing the floor. The sound fades steadily, moving down the hall toward the end, where the hallway turns into shadow, lit only by the flickering bulb. You're sure now. The house isn't quite empty. You hold your breath. The stillness that follows feels denser, as if the rain itself is listening too, waiting. The faintest whisper of distant thunder rumbles low and far off, swallowed up before the next raindrop falls. Your gaze drifts to the hallway window beside the back door, streaked with rain that blurs the world beyond into vague smears of gray and black. The porch light, usually switched on, remains dark tonight, swallowed entirely by night sky and the thick wetness outside. The door's lock clicks softly as you double-check it. Simple routine, but reassuring. The cold metal against your fingers grounds you in the moment, while your other hand reaches for the small flashlight by the doorframe. You hold it steady, the beam a narrow slice of clarity in the dim hallway. Sweat gathers at your temples despite the chill from the damp air. The rain's cadence continues, steady, as if to remind you it's always been here, always will be. Your phone buzzes again, softly in your pocket. This time, you glance quickly at the screen. No message, just a nudge from the clock. 12:17 a.m. You set it down without unlocking, preferring to trust your senses instead. The footsteps seem too light for an intruder eager to startle, almost like a shadow gliding just out of reach. Did the house really creak under some hidden weight, or was that just the faint settling after the rain? You take a deep breath, feeling the weight in your chest ease slightly as the footsteps fade farther into the night. Still, that sudden sound lingers, an echo, a question mark hanging in the air, a quiet pulse under the rain's steady patter. You wonder how often the spaces we trust quietly hold their own mysteries, small movements we barely notice, until the dark brings them alive. What do those footsteps mean, crossing just past the bathroom door? How long before they return again? And more than that, how long before you stop wondering if you're being watched, or choosing not to hear the silent footfalls that might be right behind you? Before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Wherever and whenever you're listening, settle in. It's just past 2 a.m., and the rain is a steady, soft companion, tapping insistently against the side window beside the back door. The cool scent of wet wood and damp earth fills the air, mingling with the faint hint of something metallic, maybe rust, or simply the house itself, old and weathered and breathing quietly in the night. Your skin feels chilled where it brushes the window frame, the cold seeping slowly through your sleeves. You stand in the narrow hallway, the light overhead flickering uncertainly, casting long, wavering shadows that pulse gently against the peeling wallpaper. The rain whispers on the roof, a constant soothing rhythm beneath the creaks and sighs of the wooden house settling into itself. The hallway stretches ahead, dark at the end where the stairs disappear, shadows pooling there like ink in water. Then, a sharp knock jolts the quiet, a single rap on the back door, not loud, but deliberate, definitive. It sounds almost hesitant, like cautious fingers tapping against cold wood, breaking the night's fragile silence. Your heart quickens for a moment, pulses echoing in your ears. The hallway light stutters, flickers again, and dims briefly. You hesitate, muscles tensing in that familiar way before you respond. Approaching the door, you feel the smooth coolness of the doorframe under your fingertips. You steady your breath, listen carefully. No footsteps accompany the knock, not even the softest shuffle on the porch or the crunch of gravel beneath shoes. The rain muffles everything outside, so you can't tell if someone's still there, or if the sound was meant to vanish as quickly as it came. The porch light is off, swallowed by the night. You reach out slowly, your hand finding the deadbolt, firm, secure, and then the chain latch. You slide both closed without hurried rush, a small ritual that anchors you in the moment. You peer through the peephole, pressing your eye against the cool metal. Outside is a smear of rain-streaked glass and shadow. The world beyond is blurred by falling water. No face, no figure, only the gray suggestion of the wet porch floor and a few slick footprints that end near the threshold, their edges softened by the rain. There's no sign of who or what knocked. You step back, heart still ticking loud enough to hear. Your fingers linger near the light switch. The glow steadies, casting slow-moving shadows along the walls again, framing the longer, deeper darkness at the hallway's end. The rain shares its steady pattern, a continuous thread of sound threading through the night, unchanging and patient. You consider calling someone, searching for the familiar comfort of a voice beyond these walls, but your phone remains silent in your pocket. Not a missed call, not a message. The neighborhood is still, the houses far apart, their lights out or dimmed beyond reach. The only visitor is the rain, relentless, steady, and the knocking, that simple, surreal sound, lingers inside your mind unanswered. It was a knock without a face, a presence without form. Something that crosses the threshold of sound, but selects silence for its shape. What waits when a door opens to nothing but shadow? What watches when the eyes are removed from the night? You realize then that some questions live not in the answer, but in the moment we catch ourselves listening, waiting for the next sound that might never come. Before we settle into the night's quiet, if you're here right now, take a moment to like and subscribe. I wonder where you are, what time it is, where you're listening. It's past 2:30 a.m., and outside the rain taps steadily against the side window. You can almost feel the cold wetness pressing in, the faint scent of damp earth and cracking wood filling the air like a whispered invitation. Your skin feels the chill where it brushes the glass, fingers tracing cold trails across the misted pane. You step away, heart steady but alert, moving slowly down the hallway. The overhead light flickers, that weak pulse of light breaking apart in the stillness. Shadows reach long and thin toward the stairwell's black mouth at the hall's end, hesitating there, like something waiting just out of sight. The house breathes softly around you, the creaks and faint groans settling deeper in the damp night. The rain's rhythm is a low thrum beneath the quiet, a slow drumbeat in the dark foam of falling water. Your gaze drifts to the neighbor's yard just beyond the fence, the one with the tall, swaying trees silhouetted in the fog. The wet grass shivers under the night air, each blade heavy with rain. Then you hear it, a soft splash, like footsteps stepping through the shallow puddles. Not close, but distinct. A pattern irregular and tentative, as if careful not to be heard. You blink, straining. But the rain muffles everything else as the sound fades, swallowed beneath the endless patter of drops. You find yourself at the window facing the yard, fingers resting against the cool wood frame. The porch light is off tonight, the neighbor's house dark except for a faint glimmer behind a curtained window. No car outside, no sign of movement beyond the faint ripple of leaves stirred by a light wind. You listen. The dark glass reflects your own face faintly back at you, eyes searching the wet world for meaning in the quiet. A snap of twigs, quick, sharp, cuts through the rain's song. You catch the soft scrape of something brushing against rough bark. You lean in closer, breath fogging the glass, chasing the sound as it disappears into silence once more. Your gaze flickers between the shadows and the faint shapes of hedges and branches. The wet world swallowed beneath the slow descent of rain. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket, a reminder of time passing, 2:34 a.m. No messages, no calls, just the quiet blinking indicator, and the house's steady heartbeat under its flickering light. The rain's whisper grows stronger again, filling the spaces between sounds, between footsteps, knocks, and silence. You pull your coat tighter around you, the damp weighing down your sleeves. In this moment, standing in the calm and watching the neighbor's yard breathe under the rain, you realize how sound shapes space. The way a step or a crack unsettles the night makes it live. You wonder, when the echoes come from just beyond your sight, how much do you trust what's waiting in the darkness, and how much do you fill in the silence with your own restless mind? If you're here, now, that quiet moment in the middle of the night, take a breath, maybe tap like and subscribe before we begin. I wonder where you are as you listen. What time has the rain fallen over where you're sitting? It's a little past 3 a.m. The rain's steady, the kind that hammers soft, endless pulses against a vinyl side window next to the garage. The air is cold and thick, with a scent of damp stone and pine, mixed beneath the faint oily aroma that drifts from the driveway. Your fingers rest on the window frame, cool, slick with moisture, and the skin on your wrist prickles in the chill. The house hums quietly around you. The flickering hallway light overhead fights the night, casting wavering beams that stretch and shrink against the peeling wallpaper of the narrow corridor. Shadows gather at the far end, pooling where the stairwell dips into darkness. Somewhere deep inside, the old wood sighs, settling as the rain presses on, relentless. You move carefully toward the garage door, the floorboards cool beneath your bare feet. The air feels heavier here, thick with the scent of wet earth, and something less easy to name, an indistinct musk that pulls at your attention. Your hand slides up the wall, fingertips tracing the rough grain of the wood trim before settling on the window's latch. It's locked, secure, the kind of care you don't always stop to confirm until something nudges suspicion awake. Outside, the rain drums in a steady rhythm, muffling the quiet scrape of a branch brushing the roof's edge. Your breath floats in the air, low and even, but your ears catch a subtle shift. There's a soft tapping sound, deliberate, low, coming from beyond the garage, like light footsteps pressed into wet earth, or a cautious hand tracing the siding. You pull back from the locked window, the cold of the glass lingering under your palm. You step out into the hall, the crunch of your shoes on the floor sharp against the rain's constant drumming. The hallway light flickers again, briefly dimming, and in that moment, you swear the shadows beyond the stairs shift just a little, as if pulled by an unseen weight. Your phone vibrates softly in your pocket. The timestamp reads 3:03 a.m. No messages, no missed calls. Just an echo of time passing, measured and relentless. You glance back toward the garage window. Through the streaked glass, the world outside is a blur, dark shapes and rain muted by the glass. The porch light stays off tonight, the yard swallowed in shadow. You wonder, quietly, How often we trust the locks and latches to keep the night where it belongs. How often do we miss the faintest shifts, the soft taps, the shadows that hesitate at the edge of light, waiting for us to notice. What does the silence outside that locked window really hold? And more than that, what does it want to tell us when no one is listening? Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Maybe tap like and subscribe if you're comfortable. Wherever you are, whatever time it happens to be, let yourself be carried by this moment. It's just past 3:15 a.m., and the rain spins a low, steady rhythm against the side window nearby. The air smells of cold stone and damp wood, breathable and sharp, the kind of chill that sneaks through a single layer of clothing and settles deep in your skin. Your fingertips brush the cool glass, tracing slow, moisture-smudged circles where the outside world blurs into shadow. You stand at the hallway's edge, where the flickering light overhead struggles to hold steady. It pulses briefly, then dims, leaving the far corner in semi-darkness where the staircase disappears. The shadows lean there, thick and patient, stretching out like slow tendrils waiting for something to reach back. The house exhales quietly around you. The soft creak of old wood, the faint thump of raindrops racing down the gutters, and beneath all that, an almost imperceptible whisper, like breath sliding just beyond hearing. Then it happens. A cold rush at the back of your neck, sudden and sharp, as if the night itself has exhaled just beside you. You turn your head slowly, instinct pulling your gaze down the hallway. The air is colder there, dampened, carrying the scent of wet earth mixed with something less distinct, perhaps the faint metallic note of old rainwater pooling unseen. Your footstep echoes softly as you move forward, bare soles pressing gently on the worn floorboards. You reach out, fingers brushing the peeling wallpaper, feeling the paper cool against your skin like a breath of damp air. The light flickers again, and in that thinning glow, you catch it. A faint exhale you didn't make, a ghost of sound rising and fading into the silence. The hallway is empty, save for shifting shadows and the distant drip of water somewhere out of sight. You pause. Your breath comes steady, a slow mist in the quiet air. The house feels full, yet hollow at once, as if it holds both absence and presence, tangled in the dim light. Your hand tightens around the doorframe, grounding you, the cool hard wood, a reminder of solid things in a shifting moment. The rain drums outside, a flowing, endless chorus that never quite lets the silence settle. Somewhere beyond the house, a car passes, tires splashing on the wet road, headlights brief sparks cutting through the dark. You glance toward the window, the cold glass distorting the world outside, melting streetlights into smears of amber and gray. Your phone vibrates lightly in your pocket, the screen lighting faintly, a timestamp, 3:17 a.m. No messages, no urgent call, just the slow marking of time. You breathe deeply and realize how thin the space is between knowing and sensing, the line drawn by quiet breaths, fading light, and shadows that wait patiently at the edges of vision. And you wonder, when a breath comes from the dark, unseen but certain, how do you decide if it belongs to the night, or if it belongs to you? Before we start, take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Wherever you are now, and whatever time it is, settle into the rhythm of this night with me. It's past midnight, the rain taps steadily against the side window, a soft patter that blurs outside into streaks of silver and shadow. The scent of wet earth mingles with the faintly woody aroma of the old house, cool and hushed, like a breath held just beneath the surface. You stand in the hallway, close enough to touch the peeling wallpaper, feeling the faint texture beneath your fingertips. As the flickering overhead light struggles to stay steady, the bulb sputters, throwing irregular pools of yellowish light, leaving sections of the corridor caught between glow and dark. Shadows gather at the far end, near the staircase that dips abruptly away from sight. A quiet sigh seems to rise from the floorboards beneath you, the house settling in with the rain's firm tapping. Then, something catches your eye. A glow from the spare room door, cracked just enough to spill a thin sliver of soft light onto the hallway floor. It's unexpected. You hadn't left any lights on, especially not in that room. The air near the door feels cooler, the faint smell of linen and old paper drifting out, mixing with the scent of rain pressed against the window. You step closer, feet silent on the worn floor, the light growing slowly warmer as you near the doorframe. Your hand brushes the door's edge, cool and smooth, and for a brief second you consider pushing it open, but the hesitation holds you back. The room behind the door is quiet. No hum of electronics, no whisper of movement, just the soft light forming a pool on the floorboards and faint shadows brushing the edges. Outside, the rain shifts its rhythm, a steady murmur now, punctuated by distant thunder, murmuring low and far behind the hills. Your breath catches in your chest. You're aware of the silence now, the weight of the space between sounds. The hallway light flickers again, and the shadows at the end seem to twitch, lurching toward the light in a slow, reluctant dance. You reach for your phone, the screen's glow harsh in the dimness. The timestamp reads 12:44 a.m. No messages, no missed calls. Only your own steady pulse, synced with the rainfall's steady beat. The room beyond the door does not flicker or fade. It holds to its quiet glow, patient as the shadows that stretch and recede along the walls. You wonder how often light slips on in empty rooms, how often shadows stir, not because of what moves, but because of what waits to be seen. And when you finally decide to cross that threshold, do you step toward clarity or deeper into the quiet that lives where light meets dark? If you're settling in now, wherever and whenever this finds you, remember to hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet. The night is deep, and the rain outside presses soft and steady against the window beside you. You can smell that wet earth sharp through the thin crack of the window sash, the cool, damp air wrapping around your skin, settling like a hush. The faint hum of old wood settling in the house is a quiet heartbeat under the constant tap-tap-tap of rain on the eaves. You're drawn toward the spare room hallway, the faint light there, casting long, wavering shadows that lick just at the edges of your vision. The hallway light overhead flickers again, pulsing like a frail breath breaking through the silence. The walls seem closer here, the dampness heavier, and when you pause, you hear it, the static buzzing of the small radio sitting forgotten on the shelf. It started low, a soft hiss at first, nearly swallowed by the rain, but you hadn't turned on the radio. There's no power cord plugged in. The room feels untouched, still, something almost waiting in the steady drip of water from the gutter downspout beyond the window. You step closer, each footfall muffled on the threadbare carpet. The static grows in its subtle insistence, shifting and sliding beneath the fading lamp glow. The sound fills the narrow space, crackling with tiny pops and frayed echoes, like a ghost signal stretched thin across invisible wires. You reach out slowly, fingers grazing the radio's cold, plastic casing, still unpowered, as if the noise has come from somewhere else, caught in the room like a secret whisper trapped in the thin air. Your skin prickles as the static swells, a sudden ripple of high-frequency tingles that fade just as a faint murmur trails away, a word almost, but never quite heard. Outside, the rain's rhythm shifts, softer now, drawn out like the slow breathing of the night itself. A distant thunder mutters low under the steady patter. The scent of wet wood and earth deepens, swirling in the quiet, wrapping tight around the window glass. The faint outlines of trees sway lazily, blurred by the wet pane, dark and shifting like quiet shadows waiting beyond. Your breath fogs the cool glass as you lean in, drawn toward the empty chair by the window where the silence seems thick enough to hold something just beneath the surface. The radio clicks and hiccups again, static stretching thin over silence, a sound that feels like a message sent into nothing, or an answer sent back from the dark. You stare into the static, the small swirling snowstorm of noise, and wonder, if a voice comes through the silence when you've stopped listening, does it ever truly disappear? And what if some echoes are meant to follow us, not to interrupt, but to remind us how thin the veil is between sound and shadow? If you're listening now, maybe late, maybe somewhere quiet, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you tonight? And what time is it there? It's past midnight, and the rain is steady, sliding down the bus window in soft, cool sheets. The cold air presses lightly against the glass, a faint mist fogging your breath where it meets the pane. The smell of damp fabric and the faint musk of old leather seats fills the air. Outside, everything blurs into deep shadows and scattered streetlights, distorted like memories under the persistent drizzle. You settle into the empty seat beside the window, fingers brushing the cool plastic armrest. The bus is half empty and still, the hum of the engine muted beneath the rain's rhythm. The flickering interior lights overhead throb softly, casting long, wavering shadows between rows of seats like slow-moving ghosts. Somewhere further up, the faint whir of the heater clicks quietly on and off, pushing a breath of warm air through the otherwise cool, damp space. You watch droplets race each other down the glass, their paths colliding and diverging as the bus slows and turns onto a slick, deserted street. You notice the pale reflection of your face, blurred and doubled by the rain, and for a moment, you imagine someone sitting across from you, just out of sight, waiting quietly. But the seat is empty. Always empty. The bus jerks slightly over a pothole, and you hear a soft scuff near the back, as if a shoe brushes the floor. A sound so faint you have to strain to be sure it's there. You turn your head slowly, eyes scanning the dark interior. Long shadows stretch and shrink with the flickering light. The distant, quick pattern of footsteps, barely audible, seems to echo from the rear, fading once you focus. You take a slow breath. Your hand lingers against the cool window, fingertips tracing the mist. The scent of rain and wet asphalt wafts through a crack in the door. Outside, the world is awash of muted grays and black shapes, the night thick, with wet silence between the occasional rumble of distant thunder. The bus comes to a near stop, the brakes easing smoothly, and you catch the brief flicker of headlights through the foggy glass. A car passing close, far enough to be anonymous, but close enough to be watching. The rain hisses louder on the windows, a white noise that thickens the quiet. You glance to the empty seat across from you again. How many times have you caught yourself imagining someone there, someone waiting or watching, present in the shadows between lights, in the gaps of quiet? Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket. A timestamp, 12:07 a.m. No messages, no missed calls. You lean back, letting your senses settle into the gentle rocking of the bus and the delicate tension between sound and silence. The empty seat is still there, waiting, holding a space. You wonder quietly, how often do we live alongside what's not there? And when the lights flicker and the whispers rise in the dark, what fills the spaces between the empty seats and the stories that aren't told? Before we begin tonight, take a moment to tap like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, settle into the quiet rhythm of this moment with me. It's past midnight. The rain taps steadily against the side window, a constant, soft percussion that blurs the outside world into a muted mix of dark shapes and glistening streets. The air smells of wet stone and cold earth, carrying that familiar, calming chill that seeps beneath your skin and threads through the quiet house. You stand inside the narrow hallway, just off the living room, where the overhead light flickers unevenly, casting brief shadows that pool briefly before stretching away again. The wallpaper's faded pattern seems to shift in the dimness, alive with quiet movement, while the old wooden floor sighs beneath your weight. It's one of those moments where sound and silence fold into each other. The tap of rain, a distant hum, the faint creak of settling wood that pulls your senses taut. Then, something else arrives, a soft murmur, distant and unclear, slipping through the rain-damp air. Voices. Whispered conversation carried from somewhere far away, beyond sight, just beyond understanding. The sound is thin and distant, like a flicker between worlds, threading through the storm's white noise. You strain to catch something, any word, but all that comes back is the fragile thread of voice folded into the night. You edge toward the window, fingers trailing the cold glass, watching raindrops race slowly down like tiny rivers. Shadows stretch beyond the porch, pooling around the garden's bare trees, swaying in the night breeze. No lights shine from nearby houses. The neighborhood is quiet, far too quiet, except for the rain and the murmurs. Your breath fogs the glass, warm and fleeting against the cold. Your skin pricks, the cool air inside mingling with a flash of apprehension. The voices fade and return in waves, sometimes a whisper, sometimes barely there at all, lost beneath the rain's steady rhythm. You glance back down the hall, where the flickering light above the stairwell pulses like a heartbeat, long and slow. Shadows gather there, pooling at the base of the stairs, waiting patiently in the dark. You check your phone out of habit, a small comfort. The timestamp reads 12:18 a.m. No missed calls, no messages. Just the quiet glow of a screen in your palm and the endless rain outside. You wonder which is heavier, the silence that presses inside the walls or the voices that slip in from nowhere, too distant to reach and too close to ignore. You step back from the window, the whispers lingering like a question in the air. In the spaces between the raindrops and the shadows, you realize some sounds are less about noise and more about meaning, about what waits unseen, listening as intently as you are. And you ask yourself quietly, when voices come from the dark beyond the rain, are they echoes of the past, warnings from what's just out of reach, or simply the mind's way of filling empty space with the strange, intangible shape of a shadow? If you're here now, wherever and whenever this finds you, take a breath and settle in. Maybe tap like and subscribe while you get comfortable. It's just past midnight. The rain taps steady against the motel's front window. Soft, persistent drumming that blurs the world outside into dark streaks and shimmering pools. Inside, the air smells faintly of damp carpet mingled with the lingering scent of stale coffee. There's a chill that slips underneath your jacket, even though the heater hums quietly, barely warm in this long, quiet night. You're standing in the motel lobby, an old place with faded wallpaper and the faint hum of a flickering fluorescent light overhead. The bulb buzzes softly, its uneven glow casting patches of faint yellow across the chipped linoleum floor. Shadows gather at the edges of the room as the light wavers, pooling near the front desk and curling along the walls. The silence here isn't empty. It hums softly, stretched taut like a waiting sigh. Your footsteps echo as you move forward, the leather soles of your shoes barely making a sound on the worn floor. A faint creak rises somewhere in the ceiling. A settling sound you want to trust is nothing more than old wood breathing. Outside, the rain shifts, turning into a steady drizzle washing the cracked pavement of the parking lot in pulses. The occasional distant rumble of thunder hovers low, peeled thin across the night's fabric. The front desk is tidy but worn. A bell rests silently, its brass dulled and cool. You reach out to brush a finger over the chipped varnish, feeling the rough grain beneath your touch. No one sits behind the counter. A faint scent of mothballs drifts in through a cracked open back door, mixing with the ozone-heavy freshness of rain. Beyond the doorway, dim hallway lights flicker at slow, irregular intervals, marking the long corridor that leads to the rooms, stretching like a dim tunnel swallowed, bit by darkness. You pause, the echo of a door closing somewhere far off, a soft click that cuts the stillness like a whispered promise. Your eyes catch a shadow crossing the far end of the hall, just beyond the reach of the flickering light. It's quick, almost slipped into the heavy silence, like the tail of a passing thought you can't quite grasp. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket. You glance down, a timestamp, 12:04 a.m. No messages, no calls, just the cold glow of the screen, matching the pale drizzle streaking the window. You wonder how often the quiet of these places holds more than just empty space. How often what you don't see moves closer in those flickering shadows, watching with careful patience. You move toward the hallway, hand resting on the cool metal of the doorframe. The rain whispers against the window beside you, the murmur threading through the silence. You wonder quietly, when the shadows at the end of the hall flicker and the voices almost, but never quite, arrive. What have you stepped into? And what waits patiently, just beyond the light's reach? If you're listening now, maybe late or somewhere quiet, take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Where are you? What time is it there? It's past midnight, and outside, rain taps the side window in long, steady drips that blur the world into silvered streaks. The air inside is cool and sharp, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and cold wood smoke from a distant fire. Your fingers rest against the window frame, cool and slick with condensation, as the faint pulse of the heater breathes warmth behind you. You lean closer, eyes drifting over the wet road outside. The streetlights are dim and distant, caught in a fog that softens every edge, turns headlights into swollen glows in the mist. That same road stretches away, empty, slick, abandoned. Except for the slow, steady fall of rain, the sky hides the moon. But through the low clouds, a thin sliver of silver cuts through, casting faint light on the dark asphalt. It barely reaches you, but it's enough to make shadows appear sharper, edges brusque against the dampness. The hallway behind you flickers, a weak bulb catching and sputtering as it fights the night. Shadows stretch long and thin along the walls, pooling near the stairwell where the light dimly falls off. The house hums quietly, soft groans from settling wood mixing with the rain's endless rhythm, a steady soundtrack beneath everything else. Your gaze returns to the window. Movement shifts just at the edge of the road, an indistinct shape, slow and uncertain. Then silence again. The rain drowns other sounds, but sometimes, just sometimes, you think you hear whispers beneath the patter, distant voices caught in the wind like echoes lost between place and time. You strain to catch words, but they dissolve before meaning forms. Your breath fogs the glass as the cold sinks further in. You glance down at your phone, the screen lighting in your palm, 12:29 a.m. No messages, no missed calls, just the steady marking of hours, like little footsteps in the dark. You wonder about the silence outside, how thick it can get before something moves within it. You step back, hand brushing the door frame, a cool, steady anchor in the night's uncertain embrace. The rain's movement shifts again, heavier now, a drum filling the space between your heartbeat and the quiet. That sliver of moon barely lights the road, flickering like a fragile promise. And you ask yourself quietly, when the road is empty and the rain falls steady, what is it that watches from the dark beyond the silver light? What waits silently by the side of the road? And how long before it steps forward into the rain? Before we dive in, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. I'm curious, where and when are you listening right now? Maybe it's late, maybe somewhere calm, or maybe somewhere the rain is falling too. Wherever you are, take a moment. It's 3:17 a.m. The rain has slowed to a soft drizzle outside, tapping in a steady, rhythmic patter against the back door's glass panel. The cool scent of wet wood and damp leaves drifts faintly through a cracked window, mixing with the faint, sterile smell of the hallway's LED bulbs struggling against the darkness. You stand in the narrow hallway, the faint flicker of the overhead light casting long, twitching shadows that slip slowly down the peeling wallpaper. Your fingers brush the cold metal of the door's peephole, tiny droplets of rain clinging to the edges of the frame just outside. The air inside feels cool against your skin, a sigh of calm between the steady rain and the shadows gathering at the end of the hallway. You reach up, pressing your eye gently to the peephole, your breath fogging the glass for a moment before you adjust your focus. Outside, the porch is a mirror of wet stone and darkened shrubbery, the rain blurring the edges of the world beyond. The streetlight from half a block away throws a pale circle of light across the slick driveway. You squint, searching. Nothing moves. No swaying branches, no prying eyes. Just the rain, drumming a quiet song against the worn wood of the porch, and somewhere beyond, the faint rumble of distant thunder, a slow growl swallowed by the night. Your hand tightens around the brass doorknob as a sudden sound pulls you back inside, a soft creak from the floorboards just behind the bathroom door. The hallway light flickers again, barely illuminating the corridor before dimming, plunging the space into near darkness. You wait, heart in your throat, but only the rain answers. The creak is followed by silence. Then, the unmistakable pop of a latch releasing upstairs. A muffled, deliberate sound that makes your muscles tense. You know this house. You checked every lock moments ago. 2 deadbolts and a chain, each firmly in place. Upstairs windows bolted tight. The porch light remains off, swallowed by shadow alongside the side window that faces the empty lot next door. Your phone is silent on the kitchen counter. No missed calls, no messages, just a blinking battery indicator. The rain continues its steady rhythm, now slightly quicker, as if the sky is holding its breath for what might come. You lean back from the door, muscles tight, skin prickling under the weight of all the small sounds you didn't notice before. The faint scrape of branches against siding, the barely there whisper of footsteps crossing gravel somewhere at the back of the property. Then the hallway light flickers one last time, before settling into a steady hum. Outside, the world is soaked and silent again. You take a slow breath, hand brushing the wall, feeling the rough texture against your palm, reminding you the house is old, full of creaks and sighs and secrets you'll never fully know. Sitting there in the half-light, rain echoing softly beyond the glass, you realize how thin the line is between the spaces we claim as safe and the shadows that gather just past the edge of the light. Looking through the peephole again, you wonder, what do those eyes see when they look back? Are you waiting for someone who's already watching? Or is the quiet just the house? Patient and waiting, keeping its own secrets beneath the steady rain. Before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Wherever you are, whatever time it is, settle into this moment with me. It's past midnight, and the rain is steady. A soft sheet pressing against the side window beside the back door. The air smells damp. Wet wood, cold earth. A faint trace of something like wet leaves crushed underfoot. Your skin feels the chill creep under your sleeves, a dampness that wraps quietly around your arms. You stand in the hallway, close enough to brush a finger across the peeling wallpaper, feeling the faint ridges and grooves, cold beneath your touch. The flickering light above sputters uneasily, a thin gasp of brightness that bends and dips, casting long shadows that stretch toward the stairs. The house feels asleep but restless, the quiet punctuated by the steady rhythm of rain striking the roof, pattering against gutters, dripping slow and measured. Then, something else. A sharp, irregular pop from the back door's latch. The sound cuts through the rain's steady hymn, a soft, metallic click that shouldn't be there, at this hour, in this stillness. Your heartbeat thuds in your chest like a warning drum. Your breath tightens as you move, footsteps whispered against the floor, every creak and sigh of the house louder against the silence. Your hands reach the doorframe. The cold metal of the latch presses into your palm. You draw the chain slowly aside, muscles taut as you prepare to confirm what you already fear. Through the peephole, rain blurs the world outside into streaks and shadows. The porch beyond is slick and empty, the faint scent of wet grass mingling with the crisp night air. No footprints, no sign of movement beyond the dull shimmer of rain-withered leaves. You lean in, senses straining, not to see, but to listen. The rain slips into a softer pattering, a gentle hush, and somewhere down the side of the house, a faint scraping sound, brief and hurried, fades into silence again. Your pulse quickens, fingers tightening around the latch. A slow breath escapes, quiet and steady. You check the locks one by one. The deadbolt feels secure, heavy under your thumb. The chain clicks back into place with a sure, solid sound. The porch light remains off, swallowed by the dark embrace of the night. You glance back inside, the hallway light flickering once more, shadows leaping and twisting at the edges. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket. The screen glows. 1:42 a.m. No calls, no messages. Just the steady marking of time against this quiet tension. You step back from the door, muscles relaxing slowly, but the weight of the sound lingers, a faint echo folded into the night's fabric. And you wonder, how many times does the night break its silence with a sound you catch but can't place? When the latch pops and no one is there, what are we really listening for? And how long can we hold the quiet before it begins to speak in whispers? You notice the chill first, a sudden drop in temperature seeping through your skin, crawling slowly across your neck and down your spine. The faint, persistent scent of damp wood mingles with the cold air that slips beneath the doorframe. Outside, the rain continues its steady rhythm, tapping quietly at the window beside the bookshelf, a soft percussion weaving through the silence. The hallway light above flickers, just briefly, but long enough to cast the shadows sharper, longer, stretching thin fingers along the floor. You move carefully, voice caught somewhere beneath the steady pulse of rain. Your steps are soft against the worn floorboards, each one measured, quiet. Your eyes scan the walls as the hall stretches ahead, faded wallpaper peeling at the edges, dark corners where the light can't reach, and then the bookshelf, the familiar row of books, spines cracked and worn, stories folded into their pages like silent echoes. But tonight, framed by the flickering light, you notice something else. A shadow lingers there, pressed against the shelf, barely visible, like ink pooling quietly across a page. It doesn't move at first, but watches, still and patient. Your breath hitches. The weight of it presses on your chest, solid and slow. You glance down at your hands, steady but trembling slightly, fingertips grazing the rough wood beneath the shelf. The air smells colder here, more hollow. The flickering light falters again, dimming so the shadow blurs, becomes uncertain, then sharpens once more as the bulb fights its last flicker. You are drawn to the shape, half seen, but you catch no reflection, no warmth, just a space where light pulls back. The rain hisses on the roof, a thread of static noise that fills the gap between heartbeats. Somewhere far away, thunder growls softly, distant as a warning. Your phone vibrates in your pocket, breaking the spell. You pull it out, a small comfort in the dark. The screen glows with the timestamp, 1:47 a.m. No new messages, no missed calls, only the steady tick of time passing. You breathe deeply, letting the quiet settle, fingers loosening their grip on the shelf. The shadow retreats with the last flicker of the light, folding back into the dark corners you know so well. You step back, the familiar floor cold beneath your feet. The rain's rhythm slows outside, the soft touch of droplets now just a whisper against the window pane. You wonder how often shadows linger, not because they are something, but because we pause, unsure whether to turn toward or away. And in that hesitation, what do we find waiting? Not in the shadow itself, but in the space we give it to grow. Before we begin, take a moment to hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet. Wherever and whenever you're listening, settle into this stillness with me. It's past midnight, and outside the attic window, rain taps steadily, sharp, rhythmic, like a code whispered into the air. The air inside smells of damp timber and dust, the walls breathing with age, every creak a soft invitation. Your skin feels the cool draft slipping beneath the window frame, a quiet chill that seeps slowly across your shoulders. You stand in the narrow attic passage, the glow of a flickering hall light, casting uneven shadows that dance like quiet spirits along the slanted ceiling beams. The floorboards beneath your feet exhale faint sighs, compressed wood worn smooth by years of footsteps and secrets. The faint scent of old newspaper curls in the air, mixed with the must of forgotten things, stacked boxes, and faded springtime blooms pressed in paper, still faint and floral beneath the dampness. Your fingers brush against the rough plaster near the window as you approach, catching on an ancient nail, grounding you to this fragile moment. You lean close, peering through the rain-streaked glass into a world smeared with the night's watercolors. Beyond the cheap screen door, the porch light is out tonight, the house swallowed in shadow and soaked silence. The sky just barely reveals a hint of cloud-wrapped moon, teasing with slivers of pearly light. Then from just beyond the window, a sudden glimmer pulls your eye, a soft, shifting flicker far across the yard, a light struggling through the rain. It feels too precise, too deliberate to be passing car headlights caught off in the mist. You hold your breath as the rain hushes its relentless tapping for a moment. Somewhere, far behind you, the house seems to exhale with a slow creak, the old bones settling deep into the night's weight. You step back from the window, heart steadying but alert. The hallway light flickers again, dancing uncertain steps along the walls. In the distance, the rustle of branches moves slightly against the night breeze, storm clouds heavy and distant murmuring low thunder, though no bolts come yet. Your fingers tighten unconsciously on the edge of a battered wooden crate stacked near the attic door, a reminder of the physical, the grounded, amid the room's whispering shadows. Your breath clouds the cold glass once more as you glance at your phone. The time reads 1:56 a.m. No missed calls, no messages. Just the quiet record of time passing, steady and unwavering. Outside, the rain picks back up, a steady pulse that wraps the house in a quiet embrace, thick with the smell of wet earth and waiting. You realize how fragile the line is here, the space between the known and the unseen, the place where light flickers and rain whispers, and shadows hold stories without faces. And more than that, you wonder quietly, how long does the night keep its secrets before it finally lets them slip free into the cold? You stand still in the hallway, the air heavy around you, thick with something unspoken. The rain outside continues its steady rhythm against the side window, a soft patter that seems distant yet insistent, a slow drumbeat carried beneath the cold. The chill creeps up your arms where the thin fabric isn't enough to hold it back. The faint scent of damp wood and recent earth lingers, mixing with the sterile hint of old paint and forgotten corners. The hallway light above flickers again, the bulb straining in its uneven breath, shedding light that stutters and twists, casting long, wavering shadows along the walls. The wallpaper curls at the edges, faded and peeling in places, a cracked mosaic caught in the soft, failing glow. At the far end, the stairs disappear into darkness, their shape a silent invitation you hesitate to accept. There is a silence now, an unearthly stillness that fills the space between rain and shadow. No creak of the house settling, no distant drip of water, no whispering wind, just absence. The door at the end of the hall, usually only an outline in the gloom, suddenly seems deeper, darker. Something watching, waiting. Your heartbeat briefly stumbles, the only sound cutting through the hush, sharp and quick. You shift weight, the soles of your shoes quiet against the wooden floor, but your skin betrays you, prickling where the chill gathers. Your glance flicks involuntarily toward the back door, wondering if the house's breath has slipped beyond this room, beyond your reach. You reach into your pocket, fingers closing firmly around your phone, the cold glass a contrast to the warmth of your skin. The timestamp glows softly, 1:09 a.m. No missed calls, no messages. Just time ticking, slipping onward like water pouring past a stone. The flickering light dances again, chasing shadows that twitch and fold back. As if the dark remembers something you don't, you inhale deeply, the moisture clinging to your lungs, and exhale slowly, steadying the rising tension. The rain's tap resumes its quieter, lulling rhythm against the window pane, filling the silence you can't quite fill. A floorboard creaks faintly from the side room, the sound instantaneous and fleeting, swallowed by the steady rain and the stillness. You hold your breath. The hallway remains empty, but the weight of expectation hangs in the corners like dust motes suspended in a swarm. You ask yourself, in a silence this thick, what is the difference between the dark waiting to be filled and the stories we whisper into it? How long can the quiet stretch before it becomes something more than absence? You smell it first, the sharp, earthy tang of mud, softened and churned by recent rain, a scent that pulls you toward the back of the property. The night is thick with dampness, each breath you take filled with the cold, humid air that clings to your skin and seeps through even your heaviest jacket. The steady tap of rain against the house's side window forms a soft, insistent rhythm, weaving through the stillness of the late hour. Outside, distant thunder rumbles low, a deep growl muffled by thick clouds pressing heavily over the landscape. You step cautiously onto the slick porch floor, the worn wood giving a faint creak beneath your weight. The cold air bites at your fingers as you push open the back door, the latch clicking softly in the silence. The hallway light behind you flickers, its uneven glow casting nervous shadows along the walls that seem to twitch and shift just beyond your gaze. Stepping outside, you find yourself in the backyard, where the damp grass yields underfoot and the faded outline of the shed stands darker than its surroundings. A faint crunch draws your attention, a subtle sound out of sync with the rain. You find it near the shed, a set of muddy footprints, imprinted deeply into the wet soil, disturbed by recent movement. The prints lead around the corner, then fade into the shadowed tree line. Mud clings thickly to the sole pattern, smudged marks blurring the edges, as if hesitant, unsteady. You kneel down briefly, fingers brushing over the cold earth, feeling the slick moisture between your fingertips. Your eyes follow the trail back toward the porch. You recall locking the back door and the deadbolt before settling in for the night. Each lock still feels solid beneath your touch when you instinctively check again. There's no sign of forced entry, no broken glass, no loosened hinges, just the quiet evidence of footsteps and the constant pulse of the rain. You look upward, listening. The storm lulls into a soft drizzle, mixed with distant bird calls unsettled by the weather. Branches sway gently, leaves rustling with a subtle clatter against the shed's weathered siding. The faintest whisper of movement drifts through the damp air, just beyond where you can clearly see, a soft blending of sound and shadow. Your phone buzzes in your pocket, a faint glow illuminating the time, 2:17 a.m. No messages, no alerts, just the persistent marking of minutes stretched taut in the quiet dark. You stand slowly, brushing mud from your hands, and the chill settles deeper in your bones as you take a breath of the night's cold. In this moment of solitude, surrounded by wet earth and shadowed shapes, you wonder, how many footsteps fall silently around us, unnoticed? How often do the spaces we think are safe hold secrets just beyond the reach of light and memory? And when night's quiet draws close, what is it that waits patiently in the echoes of muddy tracks? You feel the cool dampness settle on your skin the moment you step into the hallway. A faint chill that slips beneath your sleeves and leaves goosebumps flickering across your arms. The scent of rain-soaked wood mingles in the air, sharp and earthy, just beyond the thin window pane where droplets race slowly to the sill. Above you, the lantern hanging near the stairwell flickers, shadows stretching unevenly, trembling as the flame fights a breath of cold air, then waning again. It's a fragile rhythm, pulsing like a heartbeat struggling to keep pace with the night. Your footsteps sound subdued, careful on the aged floorboards, worn smooth by years of quiet passage. The hallway is long and narrow, walls lined with fading floral wallpaper peeling at the edges, colors muted beneath the wan light. The light from the lantern casts mottled pools across the floor, patchy and shifting with each flicker. At the far end, the stairs ascend into darkness, swallowing the beam like a cavern mouth. The house settles around you, the soft creak of wood coaxed by the shifting cold, a distant drip echoing down the walls. A faint whisper skims past your ear, so soft you're not sure if the rain or the wind carries it. You pause, heart stuttering in the thick quiet, breath shallow. For a moment, the lantern's flame wavers violently, sending shadows leaping and folding, light snatched away and returned again in unpredictable bursts. The warm glow that had been steady is fractured, hesitant, as if the night itself resists illumination. You peer toward the shadows at the end of the hall. What looks momentarily like a shifting figure dissolves into the gloom as the lantern steadies again. Your fingers twitch, brushing the wallpaper, tracing the dry cracks and rough surface, grounding yourself in the tangible. Somewhere beyond the closed back door, the telltale soft scuffle of water dripping from eaves and pooling on stone forms the background, a liquid rhythm to which your tension pulses unpredictably. Your phone vibrates softly in your pocket. You pull it out, the screen a bright contrast against the muted room. 1:26 a.m. No messages, no calls. Just the relentless ticking of time that refuses pause, flowing past the fragile glow and creeping shadows. The rain's murmur rises and falls outside, beating a gentle tattoo against the window panes. The lantern's flicker becomes slower, more measured, settling into an unsteady light that clings stubbornly to the dark. You realize how much space there is between what you see and what you fear might lurk beyond. A corridor stretched by uncertainty, where shadows turn with your every breath. You wonder quietly, when the light falters and whispers thread through the silence, what does the dark crave that light cannot reveal? And how long can you stand before the shadows begin to watch back? You feel it the moment you enter the kitchen, the cold air, crisp and a little sharp, carrying the faint scent of rain-slicked stone and damp leaves creeping in from the open window above the sink. Your bare feet press softly against the cool tile, slipping slightly with the gathered moisture that clings to the floor. Above you, the hallway light flickers uncertainly, throwing fractured pools of weak yellow across the walls and countertop. shadows shifting just at the edge of vision. The house is quiet, save for the rain drumming steadily against the side window and the slow tap of water dripping somewhere deep in the pipes. The distant rumble of thunder rolls low and soft, a murmuring backdrop to the stillness, settled here like dust on the shelves. You move toward the small kitchen table, your fingertips brushing light raindrops clinging to the sill. There, at the far side of the table, something waits, a sense rather than a sight. You notice the chair pulled slightly away, the shadow it casts thicker, deeper than the rest. No one is sitting there. The kitchen is empty but for you, yet the stillness in that space feels heavy, like a presence folded into the silence. You stare a moment, eyes tracing the light flickering on the tabletop, on the glimmer of a glass half full, on the faint outline of a forgotten coaster. You shift, drawing a slow breath, feeling the subtle prickles on your skin as though the cold itself is alive, watching. The old clock on the wall clicks sharply, each mark deliberate like the tick of a heartbeat, pulling your attention to the thread of time winding ever onward, relentless and unaware. Your gaze flickers to the hallway beyond. The light dances there, flashes uneven and brief, throwing long arms of shadow down the corridor. Faint whispers drift softly through the house, almost caught in the spaces between raindrops. Voices folded away where you catch only their echoes but not the words. The shadows seem to pulse in the dim, stretching and retreating like slow-breathing things. You glance back at the empty chair, wondering how long it has waited. How many times have you imagined someone sitting there, just out of sight, watching, waiting, silent? The rain's muted rhythm fills the air again, steady and indifferent to the quiet weight pressing across the room. Your phone buzzes lightly in your pocket, the screen illuminating the time. 12:12 a.m. No calls or messages, just the passage of hours logged beneath the flickering light. You breathe again, feeling the cool stillness wrap tighter around your ribs. The chair remains empty, but in the dim glow and the soft sound of rain, you ask yourself, when the silence settles thick around a space, how do you know if you're truly alone, or sharing the room with the unseen? Before we dive in, take a moment to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. Wherever you are tonight, whatever time it is, settle in and let the night draw you close. It's past midnight. The rain taps steadily against the side window, a quiet percussion against the glass that seems to slow time down to its bare pulse. The air is cool and damp, heavy with the scent of wet wood and soaked earth. Your skin feels the slow creep of cold where it brushes against the window pane, the faint shiver of moisture in the air. You stand in the hallway, just at the threshold where the light flickers unevenly, casting long, nervous shadows that twitch and stretch along the walls. The worn floorboards groan softly beneath your feet, the sounds muffled under the weight of the night's silence. The wallpaper peels at the edges, a pale pattern dulled by years and moisture, blending with the faint smell of old paper and something else, something faintly metallic lingering near the corners. The light above sputters again, dimming briefly before fighting back with a wavering pulse. It's like the house itself is holding its breath, caught between darkness and the fragile glow. Your eyes are drawn to the window at the hall's end, where the curtains hang heavy and still, but behind them lightning flickers. Not a distant storm, but sharp, sudden flashes that slice the hum of rain, revealing brief silhouettes pressed against the fabric. Shapes that vanish as soon as they appear, replaced by the relentless downpour beating a whispered rhythm. Your breath hitches as the sliver of light from the flashes outlines something shifting, impossibly still, yet moving in the spaces between thunder. You move slowly toward the window, footsteps soft against the aged carpet, each step measured. Your hand touches the cold glass. Water droplets cling and trickle down like frozen trails. Outside, the world is awash of charcoal shadows and the blur of wet branches, the street lamp far off casting feeble amber light, drowned by storm clouds. The thunder rumbles low, a slow growl moving behind the walls. You lean closer to the window, watching the curtains flutter with the storm's breath. The house breathes around you, the faint creak of the stairs, the distant drip of water gathering and falling from the gutters, the slow pulse of a soft wind pressing through cracked window frames. Your phone vibrates gently in your pocket, a faint hum against the storm's symphony. The display reads 2:08 a.m., no message, no call. Just the quiet insistence of time marching on. You pull back from the window, the weight of the darkness folding in with the retreating lightning. Behind the flickering hallway light, shadows recline at the stairs, base, patient, and waiting. You wonder quietly, when the night flickers, revealing only slivers of what's watching, what remains in the silence after the flash. What does the dark heap for itself when the storm moves on? The scent of old paper and faint dust rises as you slide open the drawer, the coarse scrape of wood on wood mingling with the distant rhythm of rain against the side window. The damp air fills the quiet room, cold enough to prick the back of your neck. Your fingers brush across forgotten items, a folded receipt, a rusted pen, and then an old key, heavy in your palm, cool and unexpectedly solid, the kind of key that feels carried through years and hidden in shadows. The hallway light above flickers, a hesitant pulse that throws irregular shadows on the walls. The faint hum of its bulb, blending with the steady tap of water sifting from gutters. You inhale, the damp warmth beneath your shirt contrasting the sharp chill lingering in the air. Steeling yourself, you close the drawer softly and stand, the floor creaking under your weight like a whisper in the silence. Moving toward the back door, you pause, hands settling lightly on the cool brass knob already locked tight. You run your fingers over the deadbolt, confirm the chain in place, routine gestures you've done before, small anchors in a night, thickening with unease. Outside, the rain presses steadily, a soft but insistent murmur against the porch roof. You glance down the hallway, eyes tracing the shaky glow as the flickering light wavers, casting long shadows pooling at the stairwell's edge. Somewhere beyond, faint whispers seem to ride the stagnant air, fragments of voices caught between rooms, too quiet to catch words, just teasing at the edges of your hearing. The key in your hand weighs on you, a reminder of something hidden, not just in a door's lock, but in memory, in the spaces between sound and silence. You think of the attic, the spare rooms upstairs, the forgotten corners where dust settles thick and light never quite reaches. There's a creak overhead, a slow settling or something else, and you hold your breath, listening. Outside, the rain intensifies, drumming a steady cadence on the window pane. Thunder rumbles distantly, deep and slow, threading through the night's fabric. You feel the house exhale around you, a large, slow breath against the tightness in your chest. Your phone buzzes faintly, a soft vibration, a timestamp glowing, 1:13 a.m. No messages, no interruptions, just time passing quietly through the night. You step back from the door, key still warm in your palm. The flickering light steadies, shadows folding back toward the corners. And in that moment, you wonder what doors are meant to stay locked, and what waits patiently just beyond the turning of an old key. The moment your bare foot touches the bottom step, you feel the cold, damp air muffled by the heavy wooden railing, a faint chill that crawls up your ankle and settles into your bones. The scent of old pine and dusty fabric drifts from the staircase well, carried faintly on the night's thick, moist air. Outside, rain presses hard against the side window, a steady tapping sound that underscores the stillness inside. Your hand grazes the railing's smooth edge, fingers tracing the worn grain, grounding you in the physical as the darkness beyond the stairs feels like it wants to pull you in. The hallway light above flickers, once, twice, casting brief pools of weak yellow that falter and waver down the hall behind you. Shadows hesitate at the far end, gathering slowly, stretching long fingers that curl and twitch alongside the wallpaper's faded pattern. Your breath comes in quiet, even bursts as you lift your foot to the next step, the aged wood creaking softly under your weight. The silence answers, thick and patient. Then, barely louder than a breath, a whisper slips through the shadowed stairwell, a sibilant rush just beyond hearing, threaded with a faint tremble, as if words are trying to form but fight against dissolving into the dark. You pause, listening hard, heart ticking unevenly in your chest. The house exhales another settling creak. The rain murmurs against the glass, steady and insistent. You strain to catch the sound again, a whisper that seems to circle, rising and falling like the hum of distant voices tangled in the night breeze. But the words elude you. Nothing solid, only impossible meaning swirled with quiet urgency. Your eyes flick to the bottom door, the one leading outside, and then back upward. The staircase looms, empty and shadowed, the dark recesses where the light refuses to go. The air shifts, colder now, wrapping around you like a slow wave gently pressing you down. Your tongue feels dry. You reach inside your coat for your phone. The screen glows softly. 2:46 a.m. No messages, no missed calls, only time marking its steady, relentless path. Your hand slips from the railing to the wall, skin prickling where the wallpaper curls and peels, rough beneath your touch. The whisper returns and fades again, so faint you question if you heard it at all. You stand, frozen between moving forward and retreating. Outside, the rain thickens, a gentle storm now drumming on the roof and swirling cold mist through the open window. The distant rumble of thunder rolls beneath the rain's song, a low, deep promise of more to come. You step back, leaving the stairs behind, the whisper echoing softly in the silence you carry with you. How long do these edges of sound linger between presence and absence? And when shadows speak in breath-light whispers, who listens longest? Those who wait in the dark, or those who remain just outside, holding the silence between footsteps? Before we begin, if you're tuning in tonight, remember to like and subscribe. It helps keep these stories going, and I'm curious where and when you're listening. It's past 3:30 a.m. Rain softens to a steady drizzle outside, pressing against the attic window like 1,000 gentle fingertips. The air is cool, damp, and smells faintly of old wood and forgotten memories. You can taste the chill on your skin, a soft shiver that runs down your spine as you stand beneath the flickering hallway light. You've been listening. That rhythmic tapping of rain, the occasional distant crack of thunder barely rolling past, and now something new, a whisper from upstairs. The attic hatch is halfway open, a narrow gap that breathes in the cool night air. You hesitate, fingertips grazing the peeling paint on the doorframe, the chill of the house settling deep into your bones. The whispering slithers through the crack, soft but clear, like a voice just beyond your reach, threading through the dripping sounds from the roof. Footsteps don't belong here. You know the creaks and sighs this house makes when it's settling. But this is different. There's a cautious rhythm to the sound above, light and hesitant, barely shifting the dust motes that dance through the slanted beams of the attic ceiling. You step closer, breath shallow, heart echoing in the stillness between the raindrops. The hallway light flickers again, thinning the shadows that cling to the corners of the ceiling. You reach for the latch, fingers brushing the cool metal with a steadiness you have to talk yourself into. A gust of wind presses the attic door fully open, and the scent of damp insulation and old forgotten things floods your nose. Your phone's glowing screen in your pocket is a quiet comfort, a timestamp pressed into the night. 3:34 a.m. text buzzes, then fades without a word, a ghostly reminder that you're not quite alone, even if the silence tries to claim the space. You shine your flashlight up the narrow, creaking stairs, leading into the attic's shadowed expanse. The beam slices through cobwebs and forgotten boxes, pools of dust motes hanging in the damp air, like tiny stars caught in a glass globe. The whispering twists and turns, just beyond sight, a voice without shape, neither threatening nor friendly, only there. Your eyes slip to the small attic window, rain streaking the glass, so the world outside blurs into a pale smear of gray. The porch light far below remains dark. Somewhere beyond the house, the soft crunch of tires on wet gravel breaks the night's quiet. Your mind flicks back to the whispers. How long have they been here, waiting in the attic's chill? You step back, heart steadying, pulling the attic door closed with a soft pop of the latch. Outside, the rain carries on, steady and patient. The hallway light flickers once more and holds, shadows retreating in the small pool of light. You wonder how often the quiet hides voices just out of reach, how easily the night blurs what's real and what the mind wants to hear. Under the rain's steady pulse, you ask yourself, when a whisper comes from above, how much of it belongs to the house? And how much belongs to the silence waiting for you? The air inside the car feels thick and warm, heavy with the scent of damp leather and faint traces of pine from the air freshener dangling just below the rear-view mirror. Your palm presses against the cool glass of the back-seat window, moisture clinging in a fine mist, streaked with slow-spreading condensation. Beyond the blurred glass, rain slides in soft rivulets, blurring the world into dark washes of gray and shadowed forms. The steady patter of raindrops against the roof and side panels forms a quiet rhythm, gentle but persistent, like slow fingers tapping out a secret code. The light from a flickering street lamp glances off the wet pavement, casting brief, shaky glimmers onto the dashboard and the worn fabric of the seats. Shadows pool in the car's corners, a shifting dance between light and dark that plays just beyond your vision. The temperature shifts suddenly, a faint coolness slipping in through a cracked vent, mingling with the warmth and making goosebumps rise along your arms. You lean closer to the window, fingertips trailing soft lines through the fog, leaving fleeting traces of clarity that vanish almost immediately. Outside, the street is empty, curves of asphalt swallowed by the rain and the thickening fog. A distant rumble of thunder rolls low across the sky, muffled by clouds heavy with moisture. Somewhere far off, a dog barks, the sharp cry swallowed almost instantly by the night. Your breath forms a small cloud on the glass, condensing slow and deliberate before dissolving into the watery veil outside. As you watch the world through the misted window, a faint sound drifts up from the direction of the back door of the house nearby, a soft creak, too gentle to be the settling wood, more like a cautious step, hesitant, deliberate. You press your hand harder against the glass, catching the subtle vibrations that run through it. The rain continues its steady tap, a simple drum beneath the quiet tension. The hallway light near the front door flickers again, cutting the dark with bursts of yellow before settling once more into a pale glow. Shadows gather at its edges, long and slow, as if waiting for your eyes to rest upon them. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket, screen lighting up. 1:53 a.m. No calls, no messages, just the slow marking of time passing in this soaked, still night. The chilly air seeps deeper, and you pull your jacket tighter across your chest. You glance away from the window and consider those fleeting footprints near the porch steps, muddy marks pressed into soft earth, wild and unformed. They seem to vanish into the gloom beyond the yard, swallowed quickly by rain and shadow. The window fogs again under your breath, and you wonder quietly, in the space between the rain's steady song and the fading light, what is it that watches from the dark? And how often do we catch just a sliver of presence and wonder whether the silence is empty or simply waiting? It's just past midnight, and the rain taps steadily against the side window beside you, a soft, constant rhythm that blurs the edges of everything outside. You're in the quiet hum of a highway rest stop, the kind where the fluorescent lights flicker in uneven pulses, casting long, wavering shadows across the cold tiled floor. The air is thick with the scent of wet asphalt, damp pine from the surrounding woods, and a faint trace of old coffee lingering near the vending machines. Inside, it's cooler than outside, but the moisture hangs heavy, seeping into your clothes and skin like a slow tide. You step lightly, boots dipping slightly with each soft thud on the tiles, careful not to disturb the stillness that folds tight around the empty benches and closed restroom doors. The faint creak of the swinging entrance doors echoes back against the tiled walls every now and then, keeping time with the patter of rain hitting the awning outside. The distant thrum of highway traffic is almost swallowed by the storm, reduced to a low, invisible pulse that courses beneath the surface of the night. A flicker catches your eye. One of the overhead lights sputters, dimming, then brightening again like a hesitant heartbeat. Shadows pool and shift beneath its glow, gathering thick and soft. You glance down the narrow hallway leading to the restrooms, where a faint whisper trails through the air, too soft to catch words, just a breath caught in the space between raindrops and passing cars. The whisper seems to crawl along the walls, pulling your attention deeper into the humid stillness. Outside, the storm mutters low and distant thunder rolls beneath the rain's steady fall, a sleepy warning you can feel in your chest more than hear. You lean your forehead against the cold glass in the main corridor, fingers trailing lazy streaks through the moisture as your breath fogs the window. The parking lot beyond is empty except for a lone sedan waiting beneath a sickly yellow street lamp, its engine off and headlights dark, a silent sentinel in the pounding rain. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket, a gentle vibration cutting through the quiet. You glance at the screen. 12:04 a.m. No calls, no messages. Just the slow, steady marking of time. You pull back from the glass and take slow, measured breaths, the echo of your own presence awkward and exposed in the vast, empty space. You wander toward the vending machine, the soft clink of coins dropping the only sound that seems real. The storm presses steady against the building, rain washing the dirty windows and curtains of water. You pause, noticing the shadows once again, there, lingering just beyond the flicker of broken light, at the end of the hallway, by the exit door that leads to the wet, restless night. And you wonder, when the world holds its breath in the space between lightning and thunder, between light and shadow, what stories does the silence keep hidden? What watches quietly in the spaces we don't fill with voice or footsteps? How long does the quiet wait before it decides to speak? You're standing by the window, the cool glass pressed lightly against your palm, condensation fogging your fingertips in slow, spreading circles. Outside, the rain drifts steadily, muted under the low, flickering glow of the hallway light overhead. The scent of wet wood and distant earth lingers faintly, thick and soft, seeping through the cracked frame like a slow breath. You feel it settle just under your skin, a quiet chill threading its way along your spine. The hallway light stutters again, casting uneven shadows that dance briefly along faded wallpaper. The house exhales softly. Deep creaks roll faintly through the floorboards, the subtle settling of old wood that never truly settles. Beyond the window, the world is a blur, streaked by rain and folded into the muted darkness of late night. Suddenly, From beneath this stillness, your phone rings. But it's the strangest sound, barely a ring at all, like a breath caught on hold. You startle, hand jolting away from the glass, and the warmth of your palm fades against the chill window. You reach into your pocket, fingers trembling slightly as you pull the phone out. The screen glows softly. A call, no name attached. Silent, no ringtone, no vibrations, just a quiet pulse of light marking the incoming call. A ghostly echo in the dark. You hover your thumb over the screen, hesitant. The rain's rhythm fills the silence. Distant thunder, rumbling low and slow as a soft murmur beneath the quiet tension. Footsteps drift faintly from the hall outside, soft, deliberate, and irregular, as if someone walks carefully, weight shifting lightly across the floor. But when you look, the hallway is empty, cloaked in wavering shadows that stretch and bend with the flickering light. Your breath catches, the cold air filling your lungs in short, sharp pulls. You glance back at the phone, still no sound but the persistent glow, and then toward the back door, where the faintest draft presses cold against the frame. You reach for the locks you checked just minutes before. The deadbolt clicks firmly, the chain fastened tight. No sign of tampering, nothing disturbed. The phone screen fades to black as the call ends without you answering. The quiet returns immediately, thicker and heavier than before. You take a slow step back from the window, hand trailing along the wall, fingertips brushing the rough plaster, grounding you in the real. The hallway light dances once more, shadows shrinking back into the corners they claim as their own. Outside, the rain continues its endless fall, steady and unyielding. The wind whispers faint secrets through the trees, brushing the side of the house with ghostly fingers. You stand still, caught between the pulse of shadow and light, between the silence and the invisible voices calling through the night. You wonder quietly, when a call comes with no sound and footsteps echo down empty halls, what are we really listening for? And what waits in the space where breath freezes and the night holds its breath, watching? The smell hits you first. A sharp tang of wet wood mixed with something like old leaves pressed too long in dark corners. It threads through the cool air that slips around the edges of the window frame, settling heavy in the narrow hallway. Your skin prickles, the damp chill crawling along the back of your neck as you stand still, hand resting lightly on the wall's rough plaster. The overhead light flickers again, a weak pulse trying to hold the dark at bay, splintering into shadows that reach down the corridor like slow-moving smoke. Outside, the rain hammers steady against the roof, a rhythmic drumming that fills the space between creaking floorboards and the distant whistle of wind pulling through cracks in the siding. You listen, half expectant, half unwilling to know, when a sudden, soft sound breaks through the patter. Footsteps, light but deliberate, scraping over wet shingles. Your pulse tightens. The subtle shuffling shifts closer, the faintest scrape of soles tracing slowly along the porch roof, just beyond the attic window. You press closer, fingers tightening against the cold wall, breath steady despite the quickening pulse. Lightning briefly sparks beyond the clouds, casting fleeting clarity across the hallway, revealing the edges of a shadow lingering near the stairwell's end. The footsteps pause. The rain's rhythm swells, the sky murmuring low with distant thunder. You hear a soft whisper, carried barely on the draft sliding through the house. A breath of sound, indistinct and trembling, like a voice speaking in a language just beyond comprehension. The flickering light yields once more to shadows that pool and stretch like ink spilled behind your ribs. You step forward, each movement hushed and cautious. The worn floorboards sigh underfoot, a fragile echo among the house's silent stories. Your fingers trail along the banister, feeling the smooth, worn wood, grounding yourself as the space tightens around you. The rain's pulse grows stronger outside, drumming steady, relentless, an insistence pressing against the fragile threshold between night and waking. Your phone vibrates softly in your pocket, a sudden, gentle reminder. You bring it out, the screen glowing pale against the shadows. 2:04 a.m. No messages. No neighborly knocks. Just the quiet tick of passing minutes and the slow drip of water gathering at the eaves. You pull back from the window, heart aching with the weight of unseen presence. The porch roof lies silent now, the footsteps vanished or folded into the night. The flickering hallway light steadies, though the shadows remain dense, waiting patiently at the edges. And in that stillness you think, how much of what watches us never steps into sight? How long does a presence linger before it becomes part of the silence? And when the night keeps its secrets this close, what does it hope we never find? The air is tight and damp when you step out onto the cracked asphalt, the night heavy with rain's lingering mist. A faint chill snakes over your skin, pressing at the nape of your neck, and you pull your jacket tighter, though it barely holds back the cold. You can almost taste the moisture, the wet earth mixing with the faint scent of rust and wet metal from the broken playground equipment just beyond the chain-link fence. The smell hangs thick, mingling with the sharp tang of rain-dampened concrete. The old playground lights flicker unevenly, weak bursts of yellow battling the dark, sputtering like a fading heartbeat. At this hour, the world often holds its breath, and here, beneath these reluctant lamps, it feels as though time has forgotten to move. The swings sway slowly in the wind, their chains groaning a low, mournful sound that joins the steady rhythm of dripping water from the rusted slides and empty merry-go-round. You step closer to the fence, fingers trailing the cold, damp links. The ground beneath your boots is soft, soaked through with mud that squelches faintly as you shift weight. You notice footprints, scattered, uneven, leading from the sidewalk across to the playground. The marks are fresh, pressed deep in the clay soil, muddied in patches where water has pooled in dim hollows. They pause often, as if whoever walked here was hesitant, waiting, or maybe just unsure of the path. Above, the flickering lights play against the low canopy overhead, sending fragmented shadows rippling over the worn rubber mats and twisted poles. A stillness presses in, sharp and watchful, broken only by distant thunder rolling slow and low beyond the hills. The clouds churn thick and heavy, though no rain falls now, only the faint residue of last hour's storm. The walkway behind you is empty. Faint traces of light from distant street lamps blur in the mist, solitary and pale. Every sound feels magnified as your breath settles. The soft squish of wet shoes, the metallic creak of swings moving just enough to disturb their quiet, the whisper of the wind pushing through wet leaves. Your gaze lifts to the flickering light again, and in its unsteady glow, you think you see a shapeshift near the edge of the play area, gone before your eyes catch it properly, like a shadow retreating from the light. You adjust your stance, hardly daring to breathe, feeling the cold settle deeper, as the world holds its silence just a little too long. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket. The screen flickers. 1:42 a.m. No messages or calls, just time stretching thin between the steady drip of water and the faint creak of chains. You glance once more toward the darkened playground, shadows pooling thick and slow beneath the flicker of those tired lamps. And you wonder quietly, how much of the night's quiet is simply waiting to be heard? And when the light fades just enough, what stories do the shadows choose to tell? The moment you hear the rain tapping against the tin roof, a sudden sharpness cuts through the stillness, a steady percussion that reverberates in the quiet corners of the house. The sound is crisp, bright, like 1,000 tiny hands drumming a restless rhythm. You press your palm against the cold window pane, condensation pooling slowly at the edges, and the air smells cool and wet, earthy, heavy with the scent of damp wood and crushed leaves left slick in the storm. The hallway light above flickers, its familiar sputtering heartbeat casting unsettling shadows that twitch along the peeling wallpaper. Each flicker reveals something slightly different, the walls alive with dark shapes that expand and contract in the uncertain glow. The floor beneath you, old wood-worn smooth, stretches long and narrow into the gloom, stretching toward the stairwell at the end where shadows curl thick and waiting. You step forward, the soft scuff of your shoes against the floor echoing like a whisper behind the rain's unrelenting hymn. Your fingers brush the wall, tracing the rough texture as if to anchor yourself to the tangible, the here and now. Somewhere behind the closed back door, the locking mechanisms remain secure, the deadbolt firm, the latch engaged, as you've left them. No creaks or footsteps betray movement past the threshold, yet the tapping on the roof grows louder, sharper, a staccato against the storm's murmurs. A distant rumble of thunder rolls underneath, low and slow, a warning, or perhaps just the sky's restless voice. The rain intensifies, sliding in thick sheets past the window, blurring the world beyond into a shifting watercolor of grays and shadows. Your breath fogs the cold glass as you lean in, feeling the chill drain warmth from your chest. Your phone vibrates softly in your pocket, breaking the tension with a faint hum. The screen glows. 1:38 a.m. No missed calls, no messages, just the relentless passage of time documented in quiet digital ticks. You pull your hand back, nails tracing the cold wood of the doorframe, grounding yourself as the flicker above steadies momentarily. In that shifting light, you think about the sound, the endless tapping on metal, the cold pulse of each drop, the way something unseen presses gentle fingers against the roof. How often do we listen to weather as if it carries messages just for us? And when the night speaks in rain and shadows, what is it trying to say in the space between the flickers? You step outside, just as the clock strikes midnight, the night heavy with rain and a cool scent of wet earth. The air clings to your skin, a damp embrace that seeps beneath your sleeves, sharp against the warmth, pulsing quietly beneath your ribs. The sky is a dark wash, thick clouds blotting out stars, the occasional flash of distant lightning folding into the rumble of far-off thunder. The ground beneath your feet squelches faintly, soaked and soft from the steady downpour. You cross the porch slowly, each step measured against the slick wood boards that creak underfoot, a low, hesitant protest swallowed by the sound of rain tapping steadily on the tin roof above. The house is quiet, held in a fragile breath as the flickering hallway light behind you struggles to hold the darkness at bay. Shadows flicker and stretch along the edges of the house, gathering where the light succumbs. Your eyes are drawn to the yard where a figure lingers just beyond the reach of clarity, a shape cloaked in darkness, still beneath the sweeping branches of the nearby trees. The figure stands motionless for a long moment, almost as if listening to the storm itself. The rain falls between you both, thick and unsteady, blurring the outline, transforming solid ground into shifting gray mist. The wind pushes a sudden cold through the space between you, pressing low and wet, tugging at the collar of your jacket. A faint sound breaks through the rain's steady rhythm, a soft scrape, the delicate patter of feet against the sodden grass. Your heart picks up pace, the familiar thrill of alertness rising alongside the shadows, crowding the edges of vision. You lean forward, breath held, the pattering growing closer, then fading away into the chorus of the storm. Back on the porch, the latch clicks softly as you check the door once again, fingers brushing the cold metal with deliberate care, pressing the chain into place. The locks feel resolute, the safety of routine wrapping around you like a shield. Your phone vibrates faintly in your pocket, a dull, steady pulse against the silence. The screen glows, 12:02 a.m. No calls, no messages, just the steady fall of rain. You step back toward the dark, open doorway, the house seeming to exhale around you, folds of shadow gathering like waiting whispers. The flickering hallway light continues its quiet battle with the night, flaring briefly as if warning you before dimming again. The shape beyond the trees shifts, a sliver of movement in the wet dark, and you wonder, when the night holds still and the rain becomes its own voice, how do you read the shadows that linger just beyond the light? And if the figure waits, unseen but certain, what is it watching for in your silence? The damp air clings close as you stand near the top of the basement stairs. The smell sharp and heavy, earthy, like cold stone and forgotten things left too long in the dark. The rain taps a steady rhythm against the side window, a quiet percussion that fills the house's quiet bones. Your skin feels chilled, where the breeze slips in through cracks along the doorframe, catching at the hollow spaces beneath your sleeves. The hallway light flickers overhead, a sporadic pulse that breathes uneven shadows along the peeling wallpaper. The bulb struggles, hesitates, then pulses again, washing the narrow corridor in bursts that feel more like heartbeats, uneasy, palpable. At the end of the hall, the basement door stands closed, heavy and silent, its surface cracked and faded, as if it holds the weight of every secret ever buried below. You move closer, the worn wood of the floor groaning softly underfoot. Every sound you make is amplified in the hush, a shifting of weight, the careful scrape of your shoes on the floorboards, the subtle sigh from the door as if it remembers being opened long ago. Your fingers reach out, brushing the cold, rough edge of the doorframe, grounding yourself against the growing tension. Then the sound comes, a soft, unmistakable creak, as the basement door swings inward, slow and deliberate, its hinges whispering in protest under the weight. You freeze, breath caught halfway, heart quickening in the sudden stillness that follows. The storm's murmur dims for a heartbeat, as if the house itself is holding its breath, waiting. Peering past the dim threshold, the basement's darkness yawns at you, swallowing the feeble hallway light. The faint scent of mold and damp wood rises, thick and stale, a reminder that time moves differently down here, slower, heavier. The air tastes cold, slightly metallic, like forgotten spaces and shadowed corners. Somewhere deeper, a faint drip echoes, water falling in measured rhythm against concrete. Your eyes slide along the narrow staircase, pondering the safety of the locks you double-checked minutes ago. Deadbolt engaged, chain latched snugly in place. No windows unfastened, no signs of tampering. Yet the door moves now, like a secret escaping, and the silence presses close, too close. The rain's rhythm pulses through the walls again, steady and familiar, but it no longer comforts. It wraps tight, a thread pulled taut between shadow and sound. Your fingers curl lightly at the door, part warning, part invitation, and you wonder how long the house has waited in quiet company with the dark. How many footsteps echo unseen beneath these boards? And what is it that moves when no one is watching? You step outside, the damp air pressing cold and sharp against your skin, a quiet companion beneath the heavy gray sky. The scent of wet pine and scorched wood lingers faintly, carried on the breeze that rustles beneath the thick canopy. A soft drizzle clings to the night, the steady tap of rain on leaves, forming a gentle symphony that fills the space around you. Your feet sink slightly into the damp earth, cool and forgiving, carrying you toward the flickering glow that pulses in the clearing ahead. The campfire burns low, a lonely heart of warmth and light in the vast shadowed woods. Its flames dance unevenly, casting flickering shapes against the rough bark and dense undergrowth, a fragile barrier between you and the weight of night gathering beyond. Smoke rises in thin ribbons, twisting upward, mingling with the scent of rain and moss. You can hear the quiet crackle of burning wood, a comforting, if weary sound, like an old friend shifting in its seat beside you. You settle on a damp log, the rough bark pressing uneven against your jeans, the chill seeping through the fabric. Your hands hover near the fire, feeling the uneven warmth on your skin, pulsing soft, alive. Somewhere nearby, droplets coaxed from tangled branches fall intermittently onto leaves, a soft pattering that echoes the beating of your own heart. The distant rumble of thunder rolls low, a slow growl carried across the dark hills, like a warning whispered only to those awake. The firelight flickers again, throwing long, restless shadows that seem almost to shift with conscious intent. Each movement a subtle sway that makes the forest breathe in time with you. The smell of damp earth deepens, mixing with the smoke as if the two have entwined into some secret word. Your eyes drift toward the edge of the clearing, where trees blend into darkness, the faint outline of a path swallowed by rain and shadow. A quiet noise, a snap, just beyond the circle of light, pulls your attention sharply. You blink, heart tightening with a delicate unease, but there is nothing visible, only the opaque night pressing beyond the flames. Your breath catches, the cold air filling your lungs as your eyes trace the shifting shadows. A soft wind rises and falls, carrying distant whispers tangled with the rustling leaves. A voice you almost recognize but cannot name. Your phone vibrates gently against the wood beside you, startling in the stillness. The screen glows dimly. 12:57 a.m. No new messages, no unexpected calls. Just the steady passage of time, marking moments between flickers of flame and the rain's soft chorus. You wonder then, in the quiet heart of night, when the fire's warmth is fragile and the darkness stretches vast, what is it we hope to find in the shadows? Protection, company, or the truth of what waits just beyond the glow? And how long can you sit alone with those shadows before they begin to look back? The air carries the sharp, earthy scent of wet soil and crushed leaves, heavy and unyielding in the quiet that hugs you as you step into the backyard. The rain has slowed to a mist, each droplet leaving faint tremors on the slick grass beneath your boots. The chill settles deep, threading cold fingers up your sleeves and into your chest. You glance down, feeling the soft give of soaked earth beneath trembling feet, a muted squelch blurring the line between solid ground and the dark, yielding mud. Your breath comes in shallow wisps visible in the damp air, mingling with the quiet drip of water sliding off eaves and pooling in scattered puddles. The porch light behind you flickers faintly through the rain-brushed window, struggling with the darkness that cloaks every shadow, an unsteady heartbeat battling night's weight. Flickers of lightning paint the world in ghostly clarity for brief moments before swallowing it whole again. Your gaze sharpens on the ground just past the garden gate, footprints pressed deep, each step scattershot and uneven, as if the wearer hesitated frequently, unsure or perhaps careful not to disturb more than necessary. The marks trail along the damp soil, disappearing beneath a tangle of moss-covered roots and into the shadowed woods lining the property. The outlines are too large for an animal, but too distorted for neat human steps, a tentative imprint that tells of movement in and out of the light. The silence wraps tighter, punctuated only by rustling leaves stirred by the gentle wind, a low whispering sound carried just at the edge of hearing, words lost in the interlaced symphony of rain and trees. Somewhere away, a branch snaps faintly, a sharp crack that holds in the quiet longer than it should, rebound fading slowly into shadow. You check the back door, a steady pressure against the cold metal of the deadbolt, the reassuring click of the chain securing you inside. The latch remains locked, the glass intact. No footprints lead directly to the porch or any sign of intrusion. Yet the faint disturbance lingers, like something once present, now folded back into the night. Your phone buzzes quietly in your pocket, a small pulse of light in the dark. You glance at the screen, 1:23 a.m. No messages, no missed calls, just the slow marking of moments in the long night. You take a slow breath, stepping away from the window, the damp cold still lingering in your bones. Outside, the rain begins to pick up again, drumming steady on the roof and washing the world anew. You wonder softly, when the earth shows steps in shadowed mud, what stories are we missing? And if something moves unseen just beyond the faintest tracks, how long before it steps into the rain? Before anything else, if you're listening in the quiet hours tonight, take a moment to tap like and subscribe. I'm curious, where are you right now? And what time is it where you find yourself? It's just past 4 a.m. The rain falls steady, unhurried, streaming down the side window beside the back porch, with a soft, persistent whisper. The air is thick with the scent of wet earth and wood smoke fading hours ago, settling damp and cool against your skin. The house feels larger at night, a vessel filled with shadows and familiar sounds stretched thin by the damp. You stand inside, near the kitchen doorway, eyes drawn to the porch beyond the back door. The hallway light flickers above, casting momentary pulses of yellow that stretch shadows across the wooden floorboards. The rhythm is slow, like a heartbeat catching now and then, heightening your attention. Outside, the rain drips in quiet cascades from the shingles, splashing onto the porch floor. The scent of rain on dry wood mixes with a hint of something else, faint metal and soil. Your gaze settles on the back porch light, which remains stubbornly cold and dark. Then, just at the edge of your vision, something unsettles. Leaning against the far wall of the porch is a shovel. Its handle slick with water, the metal blade dull but heavy, muddy at the tip. You didn't put it there. You haven't noticed it before tonight. The porch floor beneath it is marked with small, wet footprints that seem fresh and scattered, leading no obvious way inside. The rain's muted pitter-patter forms a steady soundtrack beneath the occasional creak of the house's frame settling. You step closer, the soft thud of your shoes muffled by a rug by the door. The air around you feels colder suddenly, sharper against your bare arm. Your fingertips brush the door's edge, tracing the familiar grain of the wood. You check the locks, the deadbolt firmly in place, the latch secure, the chain clasped tight. Comforting, but the chill lingers. There's a faint knock, light and irregular, against the side window, barely audible over the rain. You freeze, heart ticking faster in the quiet. After a moment, the knock repeats, this time followed by a soft scrape, like something dragged slowly across the porch floor. The shadows flicker again from the hallway light. You glance through the peephole in the back door. The rain blurs the world outside into smeared shadows, and the porch is empty, apart from the shovel's silent presence. You pull back, listening hard. The house exhales around you, the drip of water sliding from the eaves, the soft hum of the fridge humming in the next room, a faint rustle from the bushes at the garden's edge. You think about calling someone, but the signal's patchy. Instead, you take a slow breath, your hand still resting on the doorframe, feeling the roughness, the coolness. The rain is rising again now, heavier, filling the night with its steady noise. It's strange how a single object, simple, ordinary, can shift a room's meaning. That shovel on the porch holds a weight far beyond its shape. You wonder, not for the first time, how often the night plays tricks on your senses, bending the familiar into something strange and watchful. Does the rain wash away the traces we don't want seen? Or is it just the silence afterward that's hardest to leave behind? As the flickering light steadies, your breath quiets in the thick, rain-scented air, and you ask yourself, when the world feels this still, what fills the spaces between the drops? Before we settle in, if you're listening now, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. It's always good to know where and when someone's tuning in. Maybe it's just past 4 a.m., the kind of hour where rain taps a steady rhythm against the narrow basement window. The air smells cold and earthy, with that unmistakable hint of damp stone and forgotten corners. You're alone in the house, or at least you think you are, and the quiet is thick enough to taste, a wet, lingering stillness pressing against your skin. You make your way toward the basement door, the wood cool beneath your trembling fingers. The hallway light overhead flickers as you reach out to grab the metal doorknob, casting wavering shadows down the narrow stairs. Behind you, the steady patter of rain hitting the side window mixes with the faint groan of the house settling deeper into the night. You feel the chill in the air seep in from the cracks under the door. With a slow breath, you pull the door open. The faint scent of mold and wet concrete hits you, sharp yet familiar, like an old memory you didn't want to recall. Your footsteps carefully onto the first stair, the wood creaking softly beneath your weight. The basement light hangs from the low ceiling, its bulb flickering in spasms of dim brightness. You reach for the switch, fingers brushing the cold metal plate, but the light stubbornly pulses on and off, never holding steady. The darkness beyond the reach of the flickering bulb feels vast. The damp air holds a whisper of movement, the quiet scrape of something shifting just beyond sight. Your heart thumps, loud and insistent, in tandem with the light's uneven glow. You step down another stair, the wood sighing with age and wet, and the smell grows stronger. Somewhere below, water droplets echo softly as they fall from an unseen pipe, collecting a slow, steady rhythm. You pause, hand against the rough stone wall, feeling its cold roughness grounding you while your eyes adjust to the half-light. Another flicker, and in that brief flash, you catch a shadow slipping behind a stack of old crates. You blink, and it's gone, leaving only the echo of its movement suspended in the stillness. The ambient sound of rain outside grows louder for a moment, thickening the silence that follows. Your phone buzzes softly in your pocket, an alert that the battery is low. You resist the urge to check the screen. Instead, you listen to the basement's breath, the quiet moments woven between dripping water, flickering light, and the unsteady pulse of shadows. You take another step down, the steps slippery with moisture, and you wonder how much of what you feel is real, and how much is conjured by the night's relentless patience. The flicker steadies, and the basement light settles into a dull glow. You stand there, caught between the solid walls and the shifting dark, the rain's pulse now a distant drum. The silence presses in, and you ask yourself, when the light falters and the shadows grow long, how do you decide what's waiting in the dark and what's only waiting for you to look? If you're here with me tonight, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. It's quiet out, and I'm curious where and when this is finding you. The clock ticks just past 2:48 a.m. Outside, rain slides slowly down the kitchen window beside the back door. A restless drizzle that hisses softly against the pane. The air smells faintly of damp tile and the lingering scent of coffee from earlier. You can feel the coolness of the house settling in, that damp chill that slips in just as the warmth fades, and the flickering hallway light overhead adds a subtle rhythm to the darkness. You stand just outside the kitchen door, resting your hand lightly on the wooden frame. Your fingertips meet the familiar smooth surface, but there's a slight stickiness beneath your touch, maybe the last stubborn drops of water you absent-mindedly brought in. The floor underfoot is cold tile. Your shoes squeak softly when you shift your weight. A faint flicker from the hallway light casts thin, swaying shadows, stretching farther than the doorframe itself. You can almost hear the house breathing, slow and deliberate, beneath the quiet patter of rain. From the corner of your eye, a faint glimmer catches your attention through the cracked door. The kitchen light is off, but there's something else. Maybe a reflection, with a sudden flash of a countertop gleaming momentarily before retreating back into shadow. You lean in, heart stirring just a little. Outside, the rain presses firmly against the window, blurring the garden into smudges of green and brown. No porch light tonight. The quiet is dense. Only the dripping eaves and the restless hum of settling wood respond to your presence. Suddenly, a soft creak sounds from the far side of the kitchen near the back door. It's subtle, almost lost under the rain's steady rhythm, but you catch it, a delicate scrape against tile or wood. You freeze, the light above sputters and flickers more violently, and your breath quickens. You inch the door open a fraction, the hinges whispering in protest. The kitchen feels cooler, the damp earthiness of wet leaves seeping in from the cracked window beside the sink. The countertops sit empty, except for a single small shadow holding still just beyond the doorway's reach. Your eyes catch movement again, a glint near the floor, a faint silhouette just at the edge of the counter, shifting like the last reflection of a flame. It's so slight you wonder if it's real. The soft thud of rain intensifies, drumming steady now, filling the space between the flickers of light and shadow. You reach back, steadying yourself against the doorframe, fingers brushing the cold wood, and for a moment, nothing moves except the slow dance of shadows playing across the tiled floor. In your pocket, the phone buzzes softly, screen lighting up with the timestamp, 2:49 a.m. No messages, just a reminder that time is passing. Outside this quiet bath of rain and flicker, you glance back toward the kitchen, feeling that familiar tension, the interplay between the known and the unseen. The house breathes around you, shadows pooling at the far end of the hall, waiting just beyond the edge of this small, flickering light. You think about the feeling that something's watching between the cracks in the night. Something settled just beyond the kitchen door, caught briefly in a glimmer. How often does silence hold a story we're too tense to hear? And when the light slips, and the shadows lean in closer, what do we dare to trust about what we see, and what we don't? If you're listening right now, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. It always helps. And wherever you are, whatever time it is, let yourself settle in. It's just past 1:53 a.m. The rain is soft but steady outside, tapping a fractured pattern against the side window near the back porch. You can smell the damp earth mixed with wet wood, the kind of smell that settles deep into clothes and skin when everything's soaked through. The chill crawls along your bare ankles, sinking into your bones, carrying with it the quiet weight of the night. You move slowly toward the back door, the floorboards beneath your feet muted by the worn rug. The hallway light overhead flickers in that uneven way older bulbs do, as if struggling to hold on to the glimmer of steadiness long enough for you to notice. Shadows twist along the wall where the light fades, pooling towards the far end of the hall, where a set of stairs disappears into darkness. You feel that familiar tension, the way shadows seem heavier, as if they gather quietly to watch. Outside, the rain's soft drumming carries on, punctuated only by the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant slow growl of thunder somewhere over the hills. You reach the glass pane of the back door and press your palm there, cold and slick with condensation. The world beyond is blurred, a smear of gray sky and dark earth smeared by steady water. Your gaze drops to the ground just outside, where the mud is thick and slick from the night's downpour. There, uneven footprints mark the soft earth, heading toward the porch steps. You recognize the shape, work boots, size large. But something is off. The prints shift in pattern, as if the wearer stumbled, stepped aside, slipped, then caught balance. The spacing feels irregular, the depth of some prints deeper than others, the muddied edges smeared like a hurried escape or a cautious approach. You crouch low, fingertips hovering inches from the ground, reaching to trace the fragile line of earth disturbed by these steps. The rain patters louder now, creating a thin veil between you and the faint world beyond the porch. You can feel the dampness collect at your wrists. The air around you hums with the quiet presence of something watched and waiting. You scan the porch itself. No tools left behind, no object shifted. The door's locks are tight, the deadbolt sliding home with a solid click under your thumb. The chain remains latched, just as you left it. Suddenly, a low creak slides from the corner of the porch roof, where dripping water slips from gutter to wooden beam. The sound shifts your focus away from the footprints toward the darkened yard. There's no movement there, only the restless dance of rain-soaked leaves and the heavy, waiting silence that seems to stretch winter-wide. You rise slowly, stamping the damp from your shoes on the welcome mat. The flickering light follows you back inside, its uneven glow casting your shadow long and thin. The raindrops continue their steady tapping, a soft chorus beneath the quiet house. You glance once more out the window near the kitchen door, wondering how often these prints appear when no one else's eyes are watching. Were they from hours ago, or just moments? And if someone was there, watching silently from the darkness, what do they see when they look back? The night holds its breath, waiting for what comes next, or perhaps only for you to decide what to believe. If you're here now, take a moment. Hit like, subscribe if you haven't yet. I wonder where you're listening from, and what time the night finds you. It's just past 1:05 a.m., and outside the window beside you, rain falls in soft sheets, blurring everything into a smear of cold silver and steel. The air is thick, with the scent of wet asphalt and damp leaves, the kind of smell that seeps into your clothes and skin before you even realize it. Your fingertips brush cool condensation on the glass, the chill sinking slowly down your arm like a slow river of ice. You stand near the kitchen's side window, where the flickering hallway light inside struggles against the darkness creeping from the edges. Shadows pool at the far ends of the hall, thickening and stretching as the bulb's glow falters in irregular pulses. The steady tap of rain plays a low heartbeat beneath the quiet house. The soft hiss against the roof, the occasional drip from gutters, the wet slap of leaves shaken by a restless breeze. Then, through the mist, a sudden gleam catches your eye. Headlights, raw and pale, struggling through the fog that's rolled in with the cold night air. You blink, and they seem to float, a pair of ghostly orbs cutting through the gray haze, sliding slowly down the empty road that runs beside the house. No sound accompanies the glow at first, just the persistent rain, but the faint crunch of tires on wet gravel soon follows. A measured pace, creeping closer. The headlights hesitate near the bend, dimming slightly as if uncertain. The street is empty, of course. No other cars, no walking figures, just that change in light and movement. You shift the curtains ever so slightly, watching the blurry shape drawing nearer, the edges of the vehicle softened by rain and fog. Inside, the house feels suddenly cold, the flickering light above casting longer shadows that seem to watch along with you. Your fingers tighten on the windowsill as the vehicle slows, creeping toward the driveway. The porch light somewhere behind you remains off, a conscious choice or forgotten. Outside, the rain thickens again, smearing the glass with a slowing curtain of water, blurring the headlights to soft, pulsing halos. You swallow the dry tightness in your throat, a quiet tension settling like a slow drum beneath the shush of rain. A knock sounds at the back door, soft, almost tentative, then silence. Your breath catches, heart steady despite the cold prickling on your skin. You move toward the door, sliding the chain lock aside carefully, methodically, fingers steady on the latch. Through the peephole, you see nothing but the dark and the rain smear. The neighbor's house is silent, lights off miles away. The vehicle outside has vanished. You stand there, hand lingering on the doorframe, listening to the heavy sound of rain reclaiming the night. The flickering light steadies, shadows folding back into the quiet corners. And in that silence, you wonder, how much of what we see in the dark is waiting for us to notice, and how much slips away, just beyond the edges of the light. If you're tuning in now, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. I wonder, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? It's just past 1:38 a.m. The rain is steady outside, pressing against the windows in soft sheets. A cool, damp scent fills the air, a mix of wet asphalt, earth, and the cold metal of the driveway rails just beyond the porch. Your fingertips feel the chill as you lean against the kitchen window, eyes drawn to the tail end of the driveway where a car idles quietly. The engine hums low, a gentle vibration that I can feel through the glass. The house is wrapped in a fragile calm, the hallway light flickering overhead like a heartbeat trying to hold steady. Shadows shift lazily along the walls, stretching thin and long toward the dark corners at the end of the hall. The steady patter of rain becomes a pulse, a quiet backdrop beneath the subtle creaks and sighs of the old wood framing the room. You breathe in slow, tasting the cool dampness carried in from cracks and seams. Outside, the idling vehicle waits just beyond the gate, its headlights off, silhouette blurred by the damp night air. No warmth spills from its interior, only a heavy silence, save for the steady thrum of the engine. You can just make out the sheen of rain pooling along the roof and hood, highlighted faintly by the soft glow of a distant street lamp. The world beyond the driveway is swallowed in mist and shadow. Nothing stirs except the rain and the quiet hum of that waiting car. Your hand moves to the lock on the back door, feeling the solid metal cool and firm beneath your palm. You check the deadbolt, then the chain, each click a small comfort in the certainty they bring. The porch light remains off, a deliberate darkness that deepens the edges where rain blurs the world into soft shapes. Somewhere to the side, the sound of wind slips between branches, lightly brushing the siding, carrying faint, distant whispers that your mind strains to place. You glance toward the window beside the kitchen door, the world outside fading into silver rivulets of rain. The wet concrete of the driveway glistens under the overcast sky, reflecting deep pools of shadow where the car sits unmoving. The tires are clean of footprints, the driveway undisturbed, except, you notice, for one faint muddy mark near the curb, an imprint that doesn't quite fit with the rain's rhythm or cold earth, uneven and quick, like someone arrived just moments ago and left without a sound. You glance back inside. The flickering light steadies, shadows folding inward, the quiet house breathing softly around you. Your phone buzzes quietly in your pocket, a notification, a timestamp, 1:41 a.m. You don't check it, not yet. Instead, you move to curl your fingers against the edge of the window frame, the wood cool, textured, real. Outside, the car waits, silent but present, watching, maybe, or maybe just idling, holding its breath in the rain. You wonder how long a shadow waits before it steps out of the dark, and how much of the night's silence is really just the pause between breaths, between the watching and being watched.